So what can a woman do to now shift that? Maybe not necessarily with this particular man, but to start attracting men that not only she can trust, but also who trust themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Like men who trust themselves.
Right. So I've broken it into 3 categories, and we can touch on each one and hopefully point in the direction that can get people to begin moving towards this on the path.
Yeah.
And it's just something to begin contemplating, looking at in your own life, just perhaps beginning to open up some of these distinctions and notice what you can start to live into more fully. So the first one is being able to trust in yourself. The second one is being able to start to trust men. And the third one is to be able to trust in life. And I would say that all of these happen concurrently, but we can talk about each one of them and what that begins to look like. Because when you're able to trust in self, you're able to trust in him, and you're able to trust in life, relationship has oil on it at that point, and things start to move into place. And where I would say that it really does start, though, is in being able to trust yourself. One way that I see that women and men don't actually trust themselves is that the first thing they do, the first way that they actually betray themselves and break trust with themselves is by trying to be what someone else wants. Because they're not actually trusting themselves that they are good enough to be good enough for the other person. So they are not trusting their value if they were to show up fully with, say, their needs, their wants, their boundaries, the things that they really want. And what ends up happening is, because they're not voicing those things, is they may start to contort who they are and notice how the other person responds and try to be and chameleon whatever it is that they think the other person wants so they can be that. And right there, they've created the first violation in themselves, which is they're not trusting in themselves now. And now if they're not trusting in themselves, how is the other person actually supposed to trust them? Right? Because men pick up on this. Right? If you are conforming and twisting and turning your way, if you're trying to act more right than you really are, and when I say cool, what I mean is you're trying to act emotionally non-reactive, or you're valuing comfort and avoiding pain in a relationship rather than being able to be in line with the truth. People feel this, and then suddenly, if they can't trust you because you're not trusting yourself, then how can you actually take the relationship and the connection deeper if there's a lack of vulnerability?
Yeah. Oh my God. That's so true. And, I always feel like hearts talk to each other, like unconsciously, right? We just know. I used to be like this when I was like even little, and I would know when a speaker was authentic and when not. And I couldn't tell why, but I just didn't feel moved. And every time when I was moved, I was like, I don't know. I don't trust this person. Right. And I feel like we can only move someone actually when we're congruent. What do you think about that, Clayton?
I love that. Yes, you put it so eloquently. We can only move somebody when we are congruent. Absolutely. And so what this comes down to, I would say, if we're looking now, we're talking about the concept, and if we were to put this into almost a tactical commitment of one that I want to invite people into, is to start trusting yourself by telling the truth. Start telling the truth in your life. Notice the places where you're lying to other people. Notice the places where you're lying to yourself, and commit to no longer doing that. Because what we're wanting here is for you to develop a right relationship with the truth. And you can't have a right relationship with the truth if you're denying it in your own life. So what that means is, in a relationship, it might be that you need to say when you're upset. You need to be able to draw clear boundaries when you feel the need to. You need to ask for closeness when you want it, right? Not demand it, right? There's ways of doing this. Not making the other person wrong or accusing them, but being able to genuinely ask for what you need in a relationship. And if it is space that you're needing, being able to ask for space. Begin to notice in life where you're abandoning yourself and your heart because you're afraid of maybe the other person leaving. And I'll say this, look, if you lose yourself, if you abandon yourself in dating, if you abandon your truth in a relationship, it's not going to be that much long after when your partner abandons you, because they're just going to follow suit.
Such a good point. Every time when women get cheated on, they come to me, or when they get being left out of the sun, that's my first question, is like, when did you leave yourself? Because
Wonderful.
you left yourself like years ago. You know, and I say,
wonderful.
Right, I didn't speak up after the second date, that I didn't like that he picked me up late or whatever it is, right? And so it starts so small, and then it builds, right? It becomes a hurricane energy.
I love it. You got it. You got it. Yep. And what I like a lot about that question of where did you abandon yourself, and asking that to help them switch the focus is, by doing that, you're asking them to get out of the role of being a victim and into one of taking responsibility and seeing how perhaps they had their share in contributing to the overall dynamic. And the beauty of that is actually beginning to get on the right path to trusting again. Because if you just feel like you're a victim to everything going on, then where's your power? Where's your power to be able to change it moving forward? But if you start to see yourself as a creator in some of these tragedies that may happen, then you can start to be the one that changes them and shifts them in your own life and doing something differently.
Yeah, it's really about taking ownership, being the steward of your own life, and really letting go of this whole, he did this to me, or life happened, and you're taking on this sort of passive role.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Yeah.
And one thing that I did with Brody, like when we started dating, I just really caught myself how I wanted to manipulate him. I'm going to be really transparent here. And I wanted to make him feel guilty because I knew he's a really great guy and he wants to make me happy. But instead of doing that, I said, well, what am I going to do with that now? You know, I told him, I said, I just want to manipulate you. And he's like, really? How did you want to do that? And I was like, well, I wanted to do a little guilt trip. And, and so we just had a good laugh. But after that, there's just such a trust bond that happened, right? Because it was not that Brody that's what women are so afraid of. Oh my God, when I say that, now he's going to look out for it. No, it was so not that, because he knew that I would speak into it.
You outed yourself, and it took so much courage. And notice the risk there, right? Look, notice the risk, right? To take the intimacy deeper with him, you had to risk saying that, which could blow things up. But at the same time, look at what it did to your relationship. It brought it deeper.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why we even telling people, do some sort of shadow ceremony, something where you acknowledge everything you don't want to acknowledge, everything that you don't want to be seen as, whatever, as selfish or arrogant, or I don't know what it is, you know what I mean? Whatever you judge yourself for, say, I can be a selfish bitch. Okay, call it a day. But now you said it versus trying to be something else and then getting the withdrawals from the trust bank account, what we talked about.
Right. Yeah. And what I'm noticing too, as you're talking about this, if we're just to back up and look at in my head, I'm thinking, what must Antia believe about relationship in order to have this kind of courage and to talk about integrating her shadow in this? And I'm thinking, I'm like, wow, you must really hold that relationship is a platform for you to do your best inner work.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That platform is a place for you to really up level your consciousness and grow as a human being.
But something inside of me knew that if I can really be myself, if I can be completely transparent, it's not going to last. So in that way, I didn't have anything to lose. I was 100% sure it's not going to last because I would not feel safe.